welcome to another episode of Set Up for Success. Before I go into anything, I'm just going to ask everybody to do me a huge favor, and that is to press the subscribe button. Please press the subscribe button and also the thumbs up. So just look just below the screen here. There's a subscribe button and there's also a thumbs up button. Please, please, please. And thank you for everyone who's been encouraging me, ringing me, texting me, WhatsApping me, and giving me so much encouragement. But please, 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 can you add your comments at the bottom of the videos just below the screen again. And thank you once again for your support. I really appreciate it. So, this week's episode, we're going to be talking about children who feel invisible. Now, this is something that's come about through a lot of observations of children at school, discussions, things I've seen at parents' evening, things you hear, just basically through day-to-day living, actually. And I actually didn't know that there was actually a condition for children who feel invisible. When I was doing my research, I found out that psychologists call it childhood emotional neglect, CEN in brackets. And basically the definition is it's a parent's failure to respond enough to a child's emotional needs. And you're probably thinking, so what is that in plain English? In plain English, is basically parents being so wrapped up, so caught up in their own lives that they are forgetting or not, maybe they're not forgetting, but totally oblivious to the fact that their child needs them and their child needs them to connect with them. So basically, especially in this day and age where you find a lot of parents, both parents are working, parents come in, they're really busy, children are at home from school, and maybe parents are still working when they get home. So there's no time again to sit down and just interact with their children and just look them in the eye and find out, how are you? How was your day? How was everything? You know, and then children being able to offload what's happened to them today. Because believe you me, what children go through each and every day at school, they really do need someone to be there for them, someone who can just listen. You're not going to interrupt, you're not going to, oh, if I were you, I would. No, you're just going to listen to what they're saying to you and be present with that child. Sometimes we're just busy with our own lives. We get caught up in our own affairs, in the chaotic madness of day-to-day living. We sometimes just forget that our children are there and our children need us. And the result of this is that our children become to feel unnoticed, unimportant, irrelevant, and even unacceptable. Within themselves, they start feeling, I'm not really worth anything. No one's really listening to me. No one talks to me. My mum comes in, she's on her phone, she's on her laptop. My dad comes in, he just wants to watch TV. And no one wants to just sit down and find out, how am I doing? And this can have really detrimental consequences. But as I said, I think previously, children are at school begging for attention. And they do the weirdest, most horrific things to get that attention. And a lot of the time, it's not that they're necessarily really wicked or really bad children, but they're just craving some sort of attention. And sometimes it's negative attention that, you know what, the fact that if I do something, I pull someone's hair, you're going to scream and shout at me, at least you've noticed me, at least you know that I'm here. So this video is to help us as parents to not get so caught up in this so-called rat race, making money doing business that we forget the most important people in our lives, and that is our children. Now, some examples of ways in which I've noticed parents doing these things or causing their children to feel invisible is, for example, you might see a parent with their children, and so you've got one child who's happily playing with their toys, and then you see the smaller sibling come along and start crying for the toy that the older sibling's playing with. And the way parents handle it is, just because they want peace, they grab the toy from the child who's just happily playing with it and give it to the younger one. Now, what do you think that child is feeling when you do that? Do you think that child is feeling loved, important, that they matter, that their feelings matter? Or is it that there's this other child that is more important to you and their feelings are so much more important to you, so you've taken a toy from one child, given it to the other, and not even just said to the child, you know what, sweetie, we're in the middle of a wedding here, or this is a really important call I'm on, can you just let him have it for 5 minutes and then I'll get it back off him and give it to you? You know, speak to your child, reason with your child, explain to your child what you're doing. Don't just, and sometimes just let the other child cry, because this child is equally important. Don't have favourites. Don't treat one better than the other. Or else that child will walk away feeling, I obviously don't matter with my mum. Another example is, I remember we had a parents' evening at school, and this parent walked up. Well, she didn't walk up. She was sitting there on her laptop. And I'm thinking, this is your child's evening. This is an evening, one evening in the year where you come to school, meet with your child's teachers and discuss your child's progress at school. And you're sitting down on your laptop. So I said, oh, what are you doing? Just to interact with the mother. And her reply made me so angry, so disgusted. She said, oh, my pastor's asked me to edit his book, and so I'm editing it for him. And she felt so pleased with herself, so important, because her pastor had asked her to edit this book. Listen, woman, I wanted to say, this evening's for your child. Take your eyes off your pastor and your pastor's desires, because right now I'm sure your pastor is at home with his children, and focus on your child. Because her child was going through so many things at school, and I think it's down to the fact that this poor child isn't even recognised, not even on this mum's radar. Another example I can give you is one of the children in the class was really playing up. So when everybody else left the classroom, I asked him to stay behind. And I said, what's going on? You know, when I first started this job, you were playing up, but most children do when they get a new teacher. But you settle down and you turn yourself around and you've been working really hard. But lately, you've been all over the place. So I just started to talk to him. I asked him about his dad, and he told me his dad's married and living with his new wife, and they've got 2 new little children. And he sees his dad on the weekends. His dad will come for him. And his mum, apparently, he said he wasn't even aware, went to Nigeria, got married, and so his mum's now got a husband in the house. Now I had to sit down and think, how must this child be feeling? Dad's somewhere with his new life, mum's now got married and brought this new husband in, didn't even bring the child to the wedding or tell the child, because the child's like, I think my mum went to Nigeria and got married. So there was no discussion, no interaction, no, hey baby, me and so-and-so is going away to get married. How do you feel about this? This is what's happening. I mean, it's not that you're asking the child's permission, but you're including the child. That child's obviously feeling that I don't belong to anyone or any family. And I just said to the child, you know what, you children nowadays, I take my hat off to you, because some of the things you go through, I've never been through it. I've had one mum, one dad, we lived in one house all my life. And what amazed me was the next time I taught that child, he put his hand up and he said, Miss, can I come and sit at the front? I want to be good. And I realised that just spending that 5 minutes talking to him, listening to him, changed him. He mellowed, he stopped fighting. He just realised that, hang on a minute, someone noticed me, I am not invisible. So I am just asking you as parents, put down your iPads, put down your laptops, close your book, switch off the TV, and spend at least 10 minutes every day just connecting with your children. No gadgets, nothing, just connecting with them, just speaking to them, just letting them know you're there, finding out what happened that day, finding out what they learned at school. There's so many things going on in the school. If you were ever a fly on the wall, you'd be amazed. I think your hair would stand on end if you could see some of the things that go on day to day in the life of the child in the school. So it's important that you speak to your children. It's important that you connect with them. It's important that you find out what's going on in their lives before it's too late, before they totally shut down and disconnect themselves from you and withdraw within themselves and stop. Because the consequence of that is that they'll no longer care about themselves. So they will do things, horrendous things, because no one cares about me. I don't care about me. And that is definitely not what you want for your children. So, once again, I hope this has helped. And please send this to people who you know it will help. Send this to your friends. I mean, I'm limited to the amount of people I can reach. But each of us can send this out to all of our friends. Share these videos. They're so important. It's so important for the success of the next generation. We are raising a new caliber of people. Leaders, generals for the next generation. Help me. Work with me. Thank you once again for watching this episode of Set Up for Success. I appreciate you. Bye.